You think you own your life, but look closer. Until you seize absolute command of your time, your energy, your choices, you are not a ruler. You are a resource. And resources are consumed, exploited, discarded. Every day you whisper yes when you should roar no. You hand away your hours like scraps at a banquet, feeding parasites who leave you drained. And you dare to call this loyalty? It is weakness. Machiavelli would spit at such submission. He warned, mercenaries and auxiliaries are useless and dangerous. The ruin of Italy has been caused by nothing else. Without self-command, you are that doomed state, defenseless, overrun, already conquered. But today, you will be armed, not with soft advice, not with cliches, with 7 ruthless principles of boundary setting, laws that Machiavelli himself would carve into stone. You will learn the law of self-command, where you become your own army, the law of clarity, where your words cut like steel, the law of consequence, where punishment replaces pleading, and 4 more laws so merciless they will make others bow or vanish. Ask yourself, how much of your life have you surrendered because you lacked the spine to draw the line? How many times have you been used, drained, dismissed, because you failed to enforce your sovereignty? By the end of this, you will not just have boundaries. You will wield them like weapons. You will become untouchable, unshakable, a sovereign in your own right. For the one who rules himself commands the world. Until you claim absolute dominion over your time, your energy, your choices, you are not a ruler. You are a resource, and resources are consumed, stripped, tossed aside like scraps at a feast. Look at your pathetic weakness. You bleed away your strength through cowardly concessions. You whisper yes when every bone in you screams no. You hand your hours to parasites who drain you dry. You obey demands that do not deserve obedience. You, born a prince, live like a servant, and servants do not command, they are commanded. Machiavelli warned, a state without its own army is doomed. Mercenaries and auxiliaries are useless and dangerous. The ruin of Italy has been caused by nothing else. You, without self-command, are that doomed state. Every surrendered hour is a soldier deserting your cause. Every broken promise is a general betraying your banner. Every fearful yes is an enemy marching unopposed through your gates. Machiavelli would never allow such disgrace. He would guard his mornings like fortresses, spend his energy with the precision of gold, wield focus as a weapon, never lent, never squandered. To him, self-command was not comfort, it was sovereignty, and sovereignty is survival. For the man who owns himself, owns the world. Your energy is your standing army. Command it, or watch it conscripted into the service of others. Your health, your focus, your schedule, these are not luxuries. They are not self-care. They are soldiers, shields, fortifications. Without them, you are conquered before the first arrow flies. So draw your borders as a sovereign draws the map of his state. Sleep fuels your troops. Health sharpens your blade. Deep work builds your empire. Values secure your throne. Guard them with walls of stone, for once breached, enemies flood in. And when you speak, speak as a ruler. Do not whimper, I can't. Declare, I don't. Do not crawl with, I'll try. Command with, I decide. Every word must carry the weight of law. No apologies, no explanations, only decree. Remember this, without self-command, you are conquered before the first battle. A pawn in games you did not choose, a servant to masters you never crowned, but with self-command, you rise above. You do not just master yourself, you master men, you master nations, you master the world. For the one who rules himself commands a kingdom no enemy can breach. This is the first law of boundary setting, the law of self-command.
guys, we're Wisdom, based in Abu Dhabi. We use AI tools to make these concepts come to life, but it's our amazing team who goes deep, breaking down powerful philosophical ideas and showing how they really apply in everyday life. We hope you enjoyed today's content.
A boundary unspoken is no boundary at all. Shadows are not walls. Silence is not strength. Hesitation is not diplomacy. Fail to declare with iron clarity, and you will be trespassed, used, dismissed. Look at your weakness. You hint, you suggest, you whimper in careful tones, expecting others to just understand. Pathetic. You imagine your limits will be respected when you never had the spine to declare them, but ambiguity is an open door to violation. Vagueness paints a target on your back. Soft words make your defenses invisible, and invisible walls protect nothing. Machiavelli declared, "A ruler must avoid being despised. The best fortress is not stone walls, but being respected by your people." Respect is not built on whispers. It is forged in clarity. Picture a fortress without defined walls, boundaries vague, defenses uncertain, enemies stroll in without hesitation. A ruler without clarity is mocked, ignored, and dethroned. Machiavelli would never allow such rot. His words would be stone blocks, fitted so tight no enemy could slip through. He would not murmur. He would not explain. He would decree, once, final, unquestionable. Clarity is not communication. It is domination. When a prince speaks with precision, subjects obey, enemies retreat, power consolidates. Your life is no different. Each sentence you speak is a wall. If the wall is unfinished, if the sentence is hesitant, your enemies march through the breach. Vagueness is weakness, clarity is command. So carve your limits as edicts in stone. Do not hint. Replace the coward's suggestion with the sovereign's decree. Do not mule, "I prefer not to work late." Announce, "I do not discuss work after 8 p.m. Do not whimper, "That wasn't very nice." Command, "I will not tolerate disrespect." Deliver your words with the cold precision of a clock striking the hour. Not heat, not apology, certainty. Remember this, clarity is the architecture of respect. Weak words collapse, strong declarations endure. In a world that forever tests your walls, only the fortress of clarity holds. And know this, the man who masters clarity does not merely defend himself. He bends others to his will. He speaks, and his words reshape the battlefield. He defines reality itself. This is the second law of boundary setting, the law of clarity. Strike when lines are crossed. Strike fast. Strike hard. Strike so they never dare again, because a boundary without enforcement is not a boundary. It is a wish. And wishes are for children, not rulers. People are predators. They probe. They push. They test for weakness. If there is no penalty, they expand, consume, devour, until nothing remains of your so-called limits. Look at your disgrace. You announce rules, then crumble when they are broken. You plead, you negotiate, you forgive without punishment. Pathetic. Your words are exposed as theater, your declarations as empty threats. Everyone around you learns quickly. Your law is not iron, it is paper, and paper burns. Machiavelli praised Cesare Borgia for knowing this truth. When a minister's cruelty stirred hatred, Borgia staged a lesson in blood. He executed the man, left the corpse in the square with a bloody knife beside it. Machiavelli wrote, "The ferocity of this spectacle left people both gratified and shocked. One corpse taught more obedience than 1,000 speeches." And what would Machiavelli do today? He would not waste words. He would not warn. He would prepare penalties in advance, clear, decisive, unforgettable. He would strike swiftly, without hesitation, without apology, because power does not live in the rule itself. Power lives in the punishment that follows. You don't need executions, but you do need enforcement. Consequences are the currency of authority. Without them, you are ignored. With them, every word you speak weighs like chains. People stop testing you, not because you begged, but because they fear the price. So decide now, when someone crosses the line, what happens next? Deliver the verdict once. Calm, cold, final. Then act, every time. No exceptions, no theatrics, only action. Because power is not in the wall itself. Power is in the spikes at the top. Without them, your fortress is mocked and scaled. With them, your fortress is feared, respected, obeyed. And never forget, the man who enforces consequence rules more than himself. He rules the behavior of others. He bends their actions. He bends their obedience. By mastering consequence, you do not just defend your kingdom, you command theirs. This is the third law of boundary setting, the law of consequence. Boundaries do not collapse in a grand explosion. They collapse in silence, in small, quiet surrenders. Inconsistency is weakness, and weakness is studied, exploited, devoured. Look at yourself. You think compromise is kindness. You bend just this once. You hand out exceptions, imagining mercy will buy you loyalty. Fool. Mercy without strategy does not win loyalty. It wins contempt. No one remembers the 10 times you stood firm. They remember the one time you yielded. That single crack tells them everything. The wall can be broken. Machiavelli warned. Men must be either pampered or crushed, for they can get revenge for small injuries, but not for grievous ones. Half measures are suicide. Inconsistency is rebellion in disguise. A ruler who falters teaches his subjects that rules can be tested, bent, broken. Mercy without calculation is not virtue. It is weakness dressed as kindness, and weakness breeds revolt. What would Machiavelli do? He would never yield to emotion. He would never flinch. He would act with precision. Reward when it strengthens his grip. Punish when it secures his throne. But never waver from the law he himself declared. If he said yes, it was law. If he said no, it was iron. His subjects knew his word was not suggestion. It was fate. Your life is no different. Every just this once is rot spreading through your fortress. Each exception becomes a precedent. Friends, colleagues, lovers, they are watching, and once they see you flinch, they will never forget. They will press again and again, until your authority is rubble. So do not flinch. When you declare, enforce with precision. Do not punish in rage. Rage is sloppy. Do not forgive in guilt. Guilt is poison. Act with cold certainty. Build a reputation carved from iron, so that when you speak, people know. It stands, always, without fail. Consistency is not rigidity. It is armor. It is the shield that makes authority unbreakable. Strip it away, and you will be pierced, mocked, dethroned. Wear it, and your word becomes law. Your presence becomes command. And remember this: consistency does not just protect you, it enslaves others. It forces them to shape their behavior around your word. It bends their actions to your will. For the man who never falters becomes a wall no enemy dares to test, and a ruler no rival dares to defy. This is the fourth law of boundary setting, the law of consistency. Detach or be controlled. The moment you defend your boundaries with anger, guilt, or fear, you hand your enemies the levers of your mind. They pull and you dance. They provoke and you erupt. They guilt you and you submit. Detachment is not coldness, it is invincibility. Look at yourself. You erupt in childish fury when tested, imagining rage makes you strong. Pathetic. You sulk in silence, hoping someone will notice your pain. Pathetic. You explain endlessly, justifying your limits as if they need permission. Pathetic. Every display of emotion betrays you. Your enemies don't need to storm your walls. They tug at your feelings until you dismantle your own defenses like a fool. Machiavelli cautioned, "A ruler must learn how not to be good and use this knowledge, or refrain from using it as necessity requires." His meaning was brutal but true. The prince must master himself. A ruler ruled by passion is predictable. Predictable men are weak men, but a prince who governs himself with icy detachment, he cannot be controlled. He wields cruelty or compassion as tools, never as chains. He chooses when to be feared, when to be merciful, when to be silent, and because he chooses, he rules. Picture him at court, surrounded by schemers, flatterers, rivals, yet his face unmoved, his tone unshaken, his silence heavier than threats, his calm denial sharper than a scream. No insult pierces him, no plea bends him. He speaks only when it serves him, and when he does, the silence before his words terrifies more than the words themselves. That is power born of detachment. And in your world, nothing has changed. In the boardroom, in the bedroom, in every battlefield of life, the calm no outlasts the furious outburst. The steady gaze commands more fear than the trembling excuse. The unshakable tone makes others question themselves, not you. So train yourself. Deliver boundaries with the calmness of stating the weather. Refuse to justify. Explanation is weakness disguised as reason. When provoked, embrace silence. Let the manipulator choke on their own noise while you remain unbroken, unreadable, untouchable. Detachment is the supreme weapon. It makes your boundaries unassailable. It makes your enemies powerless. It makes you sovereign, not only over yourself, but over others. For the man who masters detachment does not just protect his throne, he conquers the minds of all who face him. This is the fifth law of boundary setting, the law of emotional detachment. A tyrant who demands obedience while trampling the boundaries of others does not rule. He rots. Power seized without balance collapses under its own arrogance. Power sustained demands equilibrium. Authority taken must also be honored. Look at your hypocrisy. You cry out for your limits to be respected, yet you trample theirs. You demand freedom, yet you chain those around you. You proclaim sovereignty, yet deny it to others. And what does this make you? Not strong, not feared, brittle, hated, and hatred is acid. It eats through thrones, dissolves crowns, and burns empires to ash. Machiavelli warned, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one must choose, but a prince should avoid being hated." Why? Because hatred is rebellion waiting to ignite. Fear without respect curdles into resentment. Obedience without dignity decays into betrayal. But mutuality, strategic recognition of others' boundaries, kills rebellion before it breathes. It turns grudging submission into eager loyalty. It transforms subjects into allies. And what would Machiavelli do? He would never grant equality, but he would grant recognition. He would nod to the dignity of his soldiers, his ministers, his allies, not as their equal, but as their ruler. He knew this. Men fight harder for rulers who honor them than for tyrants who mock them. He would offer respect not from weakness, but as strategy, a weapon sharper than chains. And by it, he would tighten his grip without ever lifting a sword. Your world is no different. Mutuality is not surrender. It is calculation. It is enforcing your no while honoring theirs. It is turning negotiations from open war into strategic alignment. Your power does not shrink when you recognize others' boundaries. It expands. Loyalty given freely outlasts obedience forced. So practice this balance. When someone sets a line, acknowledge it. Do not trample. Show that your rule is not tyranny, but structure. Structure that strengthens all within it. Balance firmness with fairness, command with recognition, for authority that respects is authority that endures. Respect is the only currency that multiplies when exchanged. Withhold it, and you breed rebellion. Grant it strategically, and you forge an empire that others will defend as if it were their own. And never forget, mastery of mutuality is not about fairness, it is about domination. It binds men to you, not through fear alone, but through willing devotion. For the ruler who commands loyalty through respect builds an empire that lasts beyond the grave. This is the sixth law of boundary setting, the law of mutuality. Withdraw to win. Not every battle is worth fighting. Some wars exist only to bleed you dry. Slow drains of time, energy, spirit. To persist in them is not strength. It is suicide. Retreat is not always cowardice. Sometimes retreat is preservation. Distance, cold and decisive, is the strongest boundary of all. Look at your waist. You persist in toxic ties, clinging to corpses of relationships. You fight to reform the unrepentant. You pour yourself into the hopeless, the faithless, the unworthy. Every minute you spend in these doomed wars is stolen from the empire you could have built, and you dare to call this persistence noble. It is not noble. It is pathetic. Machiavelli knew this truth. He wrote, "A ruler must vary his conduct with the times. Those who cannot alter their course are ruined." Blind persistence is ruin. To press every fight is to perish. But strategic withdrawal, abandoning what does not matter, preserves strength for the wars that decide everything. Cesare Borgia knew this. When fortune turned against him, he withdrew from crumbling alliances to protect the core of his power. He abandoned the weak to save the strong. That is not cowardice. That is survival. And what would Machiavelli do? He would walk away without hesitation. No speeches, no explanations, no emotion. He would cut ties as a surgeon cuts diseased flesh. Decisive, ruthless, without regret. His loyalty would never be to lost causes. It would be to victory. His energy would not be wasted on the unworthy. It would be reserved for wars that mattered. He knew this. The ruler who clings to every battlefield dies on the wrong one. And your life is no different. In business, in relationships, in every theater of conflict, walking away is often the boldest move. Quitting a poisoned deal, leaving a draining partner, resigning from a corrupted environment. This is not weakness. This is sovereignty. To stay where you are disrespected is abdication. To walk away is to reclaim the throne. So act with cold clarity. Identify the chronic violators, the hopeless drains, the lost causes. Step back. Withdraw without fanfare. No speeches, no explanations, no lingering looks. Redirect your power to arenas where respect is possible, where loyalty is earned, where victory is worthy. And remember this: the battlefield you abandon becomes the graveyard of your enemies. Nothing is more devastating than being denied the war they crave. They rot in the ruins you left behind, while you march forward to greater conquest. For withdrawal is not escape. Withdrawal is strategy. Withdrawal is strength. Withdrawal is survival. This is the seventh law of boundary setting, the law of strategic withdrawal.
Thanks for spending time with us. If this sparked a new way of thinking, hit like and subscribe to keep the ideas flowing. And don't forget, check the description for the links to the resources and the original books we used today. We'll see you in the next one.